Whether you believe digital assets are fad or fraud, they're here to stay. I'm joined by the expert himself to learn more. Ric Edelman, thank you so much for joining me today.
Good to be with you, Shannon.
So, as I mentioned, fad or fraud? Clearly digital assets are here to stay. You've written a book about it recently, which self-admittedly I am in the middle of right now. My husband and I have been fighting over it to who's going to read it first. But first question is, how did you really get started in digital assets, and what ultimately got you interested?
Well, I was introduced to Bitcoin back in 2012, and like everybody else when first introduced, it's like, huh, what? It makes no sense. You know, digital money, not issued by a government, toppling the global financial system, doesn't make a lot of sense. But I was really intrigued because there were some really smart people engaged. And so I jumped down the rabbit hole, and the more I learned, the more I realized that this is a transformative technology that's going to change the way commerce is conducted on a global scale. And that is both very, very disruptive. It's also very, very opportunistic. This is a once-in-a-generation chance to engage in something totally new and different that has amazing investment potential. And I quickly realized that most people in the financial industry are not aware of this, and they're therefore not engaging, they're not helping their clients engage. And that's why I formed 5 years ago DACFP, the Digital Assets Council of Financial Professionals, to teach financial advisors about blockchain, digital assets, so they can figure out whether they ought to include it in practice management and how to do so for the benefit of their clients.
And it's obviously still a pretty controversial topic in our industry, but how should advisors educate themselves and talk to their clients ultimately about this? Because investors are ultimately, driving the demand for client experience right now.
You're exactly right, Shannon, and that's what's happening. Advisors are reluctant to engage because they don't get it, they don't understand it, and quite frankly, why should they care? Most advisors have been in this business for decades. They're very successful. They're managing a lot of money for a lot of clients for a lot of years. Why do something new and different? They're playing golf 2 days a week. Why mess that up? Here along comes crypto, totally new, totally different, the first new asset class in 150 years. Nothing in common with stocks, bonds, real estate, gold, commodities, oil. And so most advisors are just dismissive. It's a fad, it's a fraud, it's a tulip bulb or a beanie baby, stay away. And that argument, that might have worked 5 or 8 years ago. Today you look silly saying that. It's not a question of whether it's here to stay, it is. It's not a question of whether governments like it, they do. It's a question of, do you get it? Are you helping your client get it? Are you recognizing the investment opportunity and guiding your clients so they don't hurt themselves, but also not missing out by doing zero? If you do zero allocation, you're 100% wrong. And so advisors need to learn about this, and that's why I wrote The Truth About Crypto, which debuted this month at #1 at Amazon. It's why we created the Certificate in Blockchain and Digital Assets, which is an online self-study course, 13 CE credits, that teaches advisors all about this. What is the tech? How does it work? And what about the practice management? What's the investment thesis? How do you build a portfolio? Handling regulation, compliance, taxation? And how do you communicate with clients about this? That's what we're all about, teaching advisors about it. I don't care whether you like Bitcoin or not. I want you to be knowledgeable so that you can decide how to handle it in your practice.
I will say in the book, I love that you spell everything out really in layman's terms in a very simple way for folks to understand. So it's almost like get on board, reinvent or die, for lack of better words in a sense. So it's been amazing to see how well received it's been. I mean, it's no surprise. People are obviously hungry for this information. But I wanted to dive in a little bit more about why you formed DACFP ultimately, and what it ultimately does, and what the reception has been.
I started it 5 years ago, and I thought, Shannon, it was going to be a short-term, part-time hobby. It's crypto, and that's kind of on the fringes, kind of out there. But what we've discovered is that this is the fastest growing asset class in history. It is capturing massive attention at all levels. 300 million people around the world own it, 20% of US adults. 63% call themselves crypto curious. They're asking their advisors about it. Governments have now all embraced it. Institutional investors are all engaged. Billionaires, hedge funds, endowments, pension funds. This ain't going away. And advisors realize now, a little late, that they're behind. And they're getting client questions. They really don't know how to answer them. And so I turn around and, DACFP, we now have 25 employees. We can't keep up with demand. We're hiring more because there's so much of a demand for education and knowledge. There's nowhere to get it. The CFP board doesn't offer it. The CFA Institute doesn't offer it. because it's outside the financial services industry. So we're now the official education partner for the CFP Board, the Financial Planning Association, the Money Management Institute, the Investment Advisors Association, XY Planning, NAPFA, IARFC. The list goes on and on and on, because these organizations all realize their members need this content. They don't have the knowledge in-house. They're turning to us as the official education partner for crypto. Major companies, Fidelity has signed a strategic alliance with us. We're teaching everybody at Fidelity about crypto. We're doing this for Invesco, GlobalX, Bitwise. Dozens of companies are turning to us, Flourish and many others, to teach their advisors and their home office staff about this subject, because only until they get that base knowledge can they begin to craft a strategy that works in their firm. And that's what we do. We deliver the certificate program with a world-class faculty. We deliver webinars and seminars, my new book, The Truth About Crypto. We have live events, all designed to teach people about this so they can figure out how to build their business with it.
And what are your hopes for this industry in the next few years when it comes to digital assets in crypto? What are your expectations for advisors and investors?
Oh, within the next couple of years, it'll be ubiquitous. Everybody will have an allocation to crypto in their portfolios. It'll be incredibly routine and common. We won't even be talking about it very much. It'll just be routine. The funny thing I find is that crypto is the most popular session at conferences like this. You know, my room was standing room only as we talked about crypto, because it's the one subject nobody knows anything about and everybody's curious about it. I mean, do we really need another seminar on annuities? We know all that stuff. So here's something new and different, intellectually interesting, even if you hate it, highly debatable. It's therefore a lot of fun to talk about. But what I find myself fascinated with is that we talk about people adding a 1 or 2% allocation to the portfolio in crypto. That's it, 1, 2%. We don't have to talk about this 50% of the time. Let's, get a grip here. Figure it out, allocate to it, and move on. It's really not all that complicated. It's not all that scary once you learn how to do it.
And I have to, if we're talking about crypto, I have to talk about blockchain a little bit. I feel like that's another technology that folks really don't understand, and how it can ultimately revolutionize every industry. Mm-hmm. What are your expectations around that? Well,
McKinsey says by the end of the decade, the global GDP will be 70% digital. There is no question that this is taking over the world in an economic sense, financial and commerce. Because digital is faster, it's safer, it's cheaper, greater transparency, and greater inclusion. The United Nations says blockchain technology is the best weapon we have for the elimination of global poverty. This is huge. And that's why there's so much excitement about it. That's why there's so many billions of dollars being invested in this space, 20 billion a year. Why you have major companies involved. Virtually every bank on the planet is developing blockchain technology. Last year, Bank of America, all by itself, filed 161 patent applications in blockchain tech. You can't spend this kind of money and have this kind of focus and have nothing to show for it. And we need to recognize how revolutionary this is, which is why you're going to see digital currencies issued by every central bank in the world. Our own Fed will have one within 5 years. Janet Yellen calls the technology transformative. Even Elizabeth Warren has said that it's time for us to have a CBDC, a central bank digital currency. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. It is transformative, and it is so superior to our current way of dealing with money. This is the next stage of the internet. Back in the 90s, when the internet was first invented, we had to learn a whole new set of language. Hard drive, Bluetooth, those are all foreign subjects. Well, that's where we are today with airdrops, hard forks, staking, mining. What is all this stuff? Well, just as the internet 1.0 30 years ago was brand new, this is internet 3.0, and it's equally brand new. You've got to learn it, master it. You'll discover you know more about it than you think. It's just new language, new words. You hear terms like gas fees. What the hell's a gas fee? Well, I got a synonym for you. Commission. I mean, all the crypto field did was invent new terms for old stuff to confuse everybody. So once you learn how this works, you realize, oh, I get it. This isn't all that confusing. And it allows you to engage, to get involved in a way that isn't nearly as scary as you thought.
Just what we need in this industry is more acronyms.
It's all here. It's all here. Staking, lending, forking, airdrops. You'll get used to it.
We need to rewrite the dictionary a little bit.
That's why my new book has a glossary in the back of it.
I've referenced it several times, I'm not going to lie. Very helpful resource. But as we wrap up here, what's next for you, Rick? And what's next for our industry in this space?
Well, I walked away from Edelman Financial, the largest RIA in the country that my wife and I built over the past 3.5 decades, $300 billion in assets, because I'm convinced that blockchain technology and the digital assets it creates is the future. It's the most impactful way that we can grow wealth for millions of Americans and billions of people around the world. And so I'm devoting our energy toward crypto education, both within our industry at DACFP and through my media company, my radio show and TV shows, my new book, our newsletter, our live events and webinars for consumers, to help them realize how they can profit from this. We all missed the opportunity to invest in Google, Amazon, Apple back in the 90s. We wished we had. Well, this is that next opportunity, and we don't want to miss this one. So we need to learn how to do it, and that's my goal, is to teach people this so we can create wealth for Americans on an unprecedented scale.
Well, Rick, it is always a pleasure speaking with you. Always love to hear what you're up to, and looking forward, and hopefully the next event, new updates.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you for your time today. For Edge TV, I'm Shannon Rossick.